All right, let's get it. What is all that stuff right there? Let's get that out of there. All right, so I'm using this app called CameraFi Live since I'm not eligible to use YouTube Live on my mobile phone. So I have to use a software, which is cool. I used this before many times and I've had great results. So it's not a sponsor or anything like that. I'm just telling you, if you have issues going live on your mobile phone and you're not eligible because you don't have a certain amount of likes or viewership or whatever, then that's an option. Anyways, welcome to my channel. I'm your host of the show. Welcome to the Opti-Mystic M. I am still working on a more appropriate name for the channel. So if you have any tips, please by all means, let me know. Drop it in the comment section below. So today I want to talk about roommates. And yes, this is my number 5 installment of the roommate series. It's been a while, it's been a long time coming, but it is the best time to come out with this, being that I have gone through several roommates, both good and bad, and I want to talk about that. So finding good roomies. Finding good roommates. Now, before I get into that real quick here, I want to give you an update on what's been going on in my life. So I know it's been a while since the last video I dropped regarding my Japan trip, and been quite busy. So I've been doing photography on the side. If you guys follow me on my other social media platforms, I do a lot of that. I've been juggling as to whether or not to post more of that on here. I think it'll be my due diligence to start doing that, but I don't do so much the technical aspect of it. There are better channels for that. I'm just putting it out there, but I'd be willing to share like how I would do things just in a basic, more like a basic level, basic to like intermediate level of understanding. So it's not to say I don't want to do it. I want to make sure that I'm putting out the best product that I can for the level of knowledge that I'm putting out there. That's all I'm saying. So besides that, I've been working. I've been looking for a new job. Yeah, just various things. So without further ado, let's get into it. So finding new roommates is not always easy, and I can tell you, if you've ever seen any of my past installments of this series, please by all means do so. I will drop the comment thing on this side or this side, whatever. YouTube, I think it's on the right side, so look for that to pop up. It'll give you a I'll just put the most previous episode up there, or the first. I'll probably just put both the first and the most previous episode from that series up there, so you can better get a grasp of what this series is about. It's about roommates. It's about the pros and cons of having roommates. What do you have to deal with? What do you have to tolerate? And for this episode in particular, I want to talk about finding good roommates. And that's not always easy. And it's not always the same thing for everybody. It's not. In fact, my definition of a good roommate may be different from your definition of a good roommate. So I want to start with just how many roommates I've gone over or I've had in the past few years. So from living in Waikiki to living in the mountains to living my current living situation, I've been here for, I want to say, almost 3 years. So I got here in 2015 December after my study abroad in Australia. So I think all my videos I've done within this series has been here. So I have that experience. Excuse me. I'm not exactly 100%. I'm still getting over my allergies, cold, whatever. I don't know what it is exactly, but I've been drinking water, taking vitamins, and just doing the thing. As this is a live video, you're going to get live results. Let's see any chat. There is no chat. Okay, cool. Just trying to make sure. Apparently in this app, you can like draw stuff too. Like draw, that's pretty cool. Well, yeah, if you have anything to say, just put it in there. And I'll read it as best as possible. But there's no history right now, so it's okay. So, what has my experience been with roommates? I've seen the good, I've had the bad, I've had the ugly. Let's talk about just some roommates in general I've had in the past. One of my worst experiences with roommates. It's not exactly he had a bad personality. In fact, he had a great personality. Living with a roommate, like we actually shared rooms. Like never again. I will never do that again. Unless I really, really have to. But because we saved a lot of money, rent was like $400 and some for each of us. So it was fairly cheap. It was a great way to save money as well, but also a great way to annoy the hell out of each other. But lessons learned. I was in a situation where I wasn't looking for a roommate, so that's kind of like a bad example. But for the person that was in charge of looking for roommates to fill that room, it's more of something that he'd have to go through. And so for me, so that's like kind of like a useless, well, not totally useless, but if you're in a situation where you're in a room and you're looking for a roommate to fill, then now it's more close quarters, and you have to, I would say, you have to find a more cohesive relationship to match your own. Otherwise, in my situation, it was fine for a little bit, and then once you get to know that person a little bit more and they become more comfortable, you become more comfortable with them. In my situation, he was just disgusting. Like his habits, dirty clothes all over the place. The sink was always filthy, and I blame myself too for that. I wasn't exactly the cleanest either, but I tried, or I strive to keep a somewhat clean atmosphere, and that was something that was not the best in his part. And he smoked as well, so that was also disgusting. The also thing was the roommate that found us, he also smoked cigars in this room. So, I mean, so it's just like freaking cigar smoking. It was even worse. And it was like freaking, that was the other thing about that environment. It was just like, I'm not really good with cigarette smoke. I hate it. So I always asked him like, hey, smoke by the window or smoke in the bathroom. That seemed to work a little bit for us. But anyways, out of the whole thing, we became good friends, just not really good roommates. And that's fine. Years later, I got into a role where, it's focusing on me live. I got in a role where I'm kind of like in charge of finding roommates. Why now my freaking sinuses and everything starts acting up? Let's see. Okay, 9 minutes. So we're 9 minutes in. So I'm gonna tell you about my most recent situation. So again, when I say finding the right roommates, that's different. Finding the appropriate roommates as well, it also fits into that equation. But when I say that, so for the past few months, and let's just say what happened. So I had 2 roommates move out. One roommate I was cool with, the other one, not so much. I'm gonna tell you about her. So in the last cycle, not the most recent, like not in the last few months, we're talking about almost a year ago. I'd say about October. No. Yeah, it's almost a year ago. So it's September, October time frame last year. I had to find a new roommate to to replace. I'll just call him. I don't want to say his real name, but we'll just say Shaq. Shaq was a cool guy, man. He was cool. He would he didn't drink or anything like that, but he was a cool guy all around. Worked in Waikiki area. Excuse me, I have to do this real quick. Yeah, that's gross, but it's not that bad. He was cool. He's one of the coolest roommates I've ever had. I searched after him, and I searched for him the same way, just looking for various roommates. So every time I put it in Craigslist. One time I used Facebook, one of the Facebook groups to look for roommates or something like that. And yeah, why don't we just go back a little further? So before Shaq, there was another guy. Oh man, what a trip. Okay. Again, going back to finding the right roomies. Very important. And you're not going to always know this, like, when you first meet somebody, or it's just like, they're going to give you their best face possible. And if they don't, well, you already know. So I found this guy before Shaq. He was here for about maybe a month, probably less than that. And I believe I've already talked about this in a previous video. Got my roommates, friends, and everything coming in. That's cool. So I've talked about this in the previous video where this guy, I'll call him Nick. It's not his real name, but I don't want to say real names right now. But so Nick, literally, he was a nice guy, but like I said, they give you the first face, the best face coming in, and it's not until a week in, a few days in, you figure out like, Nick was the kind of guy where you would never see him in the daytime. You only see him at night because he worked these long shifts. I think it was like most like a mid shift. Anyways, he moved in, kind of, sort of, not really. Had an extra bed, so I let him use that. The very first night, came back, he smelled literally like vomit. Like, I shit you not, like vomit. And not to judge the guy or, say, well, that's disgusting. So I figured that, maybe because he worked in the food area or whatever, that maybe all the food together just mixed or whatever, and maybe legitimately he did smell like vomit. Maybe he threw up on himself. I don't know. Besides that, he was a cool guy. Drank beer with him a couple of times. Excuse me. And yeah, for the most part, we were cool. So here's the problem. Nick, he decided, hey, I want to move out. Ultimately, I believe he decided he wanted to go to the East Coast. Now, that puts me in a bad situation because I'm like, well, now I gotta find a new roommate, and now my back is against the wall. I need to find somebody to fill the room because I don't want to pay more than I really have to. So it became a bad situation, and I got burned for it. Well, almost got burned for it. My landlord at the time was like, it's okay. And I was like, it sucks. Because obviously the guy wanted part of his rent money back from not using the rest of the month. And so there are laws and rules for this sort of thing when you're in agreement. So that never ever happened again. You pay rent for a month, you pay rent for the month. It's not like, oh, I'm going to move out. Can I get part of my rent back? It don't work that way. Some landlords might be cool like that, and so this is the last time this ever happened. Hey, Mr. Cool, what's going on? Been a minute? You probably was here for my last video about roommates. I know it's been a while. It's been like a couple of years, at least since I put that out, but my allergies are kind of jacked up right now, so I'm just sipping down some water. And some coffee for a stimulant, which probably isn't good for me. But it's okay. So I'm glad the video's actually working. And I got good audio. Got that good. Got that good. Anyway, so Nick wanted to move out. And that put me in a bad position because I wanted to look for a new roommate. The landlord was cool 1 month like that, but I had to find somebody next month, so I found friggin' Shaq. Yeah, I will. What I'm gonna do, I gotta go to the store. I'm gonna buy some ramen and make some like makeshift like soup with that ramen and put some spicy in it, and it's gonna be freaking amazing, dude. And usually I'm like lickety split, like 100%, like probably like the next day. Hopefully tomorrow I'll be like 95%. Like right now I feel like 85 to 90 right now. But the ramen that I do have right now is stale, so I gotta find some new stuff. So all I gotta do is find that new, get that new. Yeah, man, it's been a while though. How you been? I like going live because I can actually talk with people and be like, hey, how's it going? And then go back to what I was talking about. It's a discussion after all. It's really a discussion open. So I want to open this discussion up to everybody as far as roommates go. The question is, have you ever had a bad roommate? And how did you deal with them or her? That's predominantly what I'm talking about today, is going through and finding the good roommates. My ideal of good roommate is somebody that's cohesive. It's not exactly like somebody that's not a party or a partier or somebody that's quiet. Because I'm always looking for like, when I look at like, I always ask people like, how are you? I have this Craigslist, basically a template. I tell you my story, who I'm about, what I do, and then I ask the person the same thing, like, what are you about? Are you clean? Stuff like that. Well, I do have a survey for that later, so that's kind of like phase 2, I like to call it. Phase 1 is like, hey, are you interested? And if they're interested, they hit me back with a letter. They tell me about themselves. And then phase 2, which I used to do, I haven't done in a while. Phase 2 is like, I give you a survey because you're interested. Please take this survey in the meantime so we can schedule ahead of time, to view the place. Phase 3 is actually viewing the place, and then bam, that situation, the process. I'm just kind of jumping ahead a little bit. That works for me. That's worked for me quite well. I didn't used to do that. I started doing that when I had the issue with Nick, because Nick, I'm gonna tell you about Nick a little bit. Is Nick wanted to move out before the month was even over. I barely saw the guy. He moved in, kind of, sort of, had his stuff, like, bagged up, everything. It looked like he was in a between places or whatever. He told me that he was going to probably move on the East Coast or something like that. Anyways, long story short, Nick had this vomit smell the first night I met him. Disgusting. But he worked in the food industry, so maybe it was like all the food and everything mixed together. I don't really know the whole story, but at the time, we were fighting. It wasn't that bad. We were trying to get rid of the cockroaches that were remaining after the last. No, actually, no. We actually were pretty good. By the time Nick came, any kind of roach infestation was pretty much almost down to 0%. So, begs the question, where did they come from? Nick tells me, because this room is empty. Like, there's nothing in this room whatsoever. So I'm like, okay. I'm thinking to myself, because he complained, I was like, oh, there's a bunch of roaches in my room kind of thing. I'm like, well, if that's the case, where are they coming from? And I'm like, well, Nick has this, I mean, his stuff's all backed up. Comes to smell like vomit, so he's probably not the cleanest person. I don't know. I'm just speculating at this point. Because I'm like, well, if there's a roach problem, I don't see it. At least not in the kitchen. I don't see it in my room. And the roommates I had across the hallway didn't have a problem. So where's the problem coming from? He said, and I actually did see roaches crawling in his room from time to time. So I'm like, all right. So now I'm thinking maybe he brought them. Maybe he brought them with him. But I don't know. I don't want to say anything like that because it's kind of like, well, did you bring these over here? And I'll tell you another story about, oh man, this is going to get good. It really doesn't have much to do about the person's personality or character. If you bring, like, I'd prefer if you had roaches or anything like that, please, by all means, let me know. And I would, if you're somebody in my situation where I'm looking for roommates, I would honestly ask people, if you ask them like in a survey kind of instance, like, hey, what did the last place you live in have any type of infestation, bed bugs, at any point in time? It doesn't really matter if they got rid of them or not, but any point in time they ever have like an infestation of roaches, cockroaches, whatever, and that's something I would do in a phase 2 kind of questionnaire. It might be different if you're really hunting for somebody at the last minute. You might want to bypass that and just kind of get to know them. Like when they see the place, ask a few questions, because they're gonna ask me a few questions too. That's happened where people ask me different questions like on the spot, and I gotta be ready for it to answer it. So, oh man. Sucking down that water. Let's see where we are. 23 minutes in. Okay. Yeah, the clock's kind of in a weird area. I can't move it around, but it's in a hot spot. It's like right here. It's like right. The time is like right there. See where my finger is. So it's only in white, so I can't really see it. If it was in black, I could probably see it better, or yellow. Well, excuse me for a second. Yeah, it doesn't do much to hide me at all. It's a wide angle lens. It's like, oh god, it's all good. Might come back on and edit this one day. All right, so Nick complains and he was like, hey man, there's a lot of roaches in my room kind of thing. I'm like, all right, well, whatever. Yeah, again, I was speculating as to where they came from, because there was an influx of them. There wasn't just like one or two. There was an influx. Like, where the hell are these motherfuckers coming from? And I'm like thinking, like, maybe he brought them over, or they're attracted to the smell or whatever. I don't know. So they just come out of the woodwork. I know at the time, like, we were like I said, we had a very mild infestation of roaches before that, but then like the roommates across from me had hired this exterminator, so that should have been almost to 0%. And like, I haven't actually seen a roach in a minute since that happened. So, but then I also knew the upstairs had a bit of a problem as well, so they might not have hired an exterminator for the upstairs unit because there's a crack in the door as far as how the two units are combined. There's like the upstairs and then there's downstairs. And it's only connected by the doorway that used to be a stairway. It's still a stairway, but you can't go in there. It's locked. So that separates the two units. So the only other way roaches could come in is if they were coming from the upstairs to the downstairs. And of course, his room's like right there. So if the smell of his clothes smell like vomit, and let's say roaches like that smell of garbage or whatever, just different foods mixed together, because they're not coming to the kitchen. Like I said, I didn't see them coming to the kitchen, but like I said, long story short, he's like, I got all these roaches in my room kind of thing. I'm like, all right, whatever. He's out. Next thing you know, I got to find a new roommate, and the landlord takes the fucking hit for it. And he's fine. He doesn't charge us extra for it. And so the room's vacant for probably a month before I found another roommate. Probably less than that, but he left. Best way to deal with a bad roommate is have intervention. Oh, yes! Now we're talking, Mr. Cool. That's what I'm talking about right there. I'm gonna tell you in a few moments here how that's exactly how I had to deal with this situation that recently happened early this year, late last year kind of time frame. I'm just kind of building up to it right now. Oh man, it's gonna be good. Okay, so Mr. Cool, the best way to deal with bad roommate situation is to have an intervention. Yes, I totally agree, and you should. I'm gonna get to it in a second. Anyway, Nick moves out. I find Shaq. Shaq is a cool guy. No roach problem, by the way, in his room. Go figure. So, after Shaq fulfills his contract. He's here for probably a little less than a year. So he moved out about a month or so before his time was supposed to be up. So I had to find a replacement for him. And I have to change the names to protect the innocent or guilty here. In comes, what's her name? Gigi. I'll just call it Gigi. Gigi. So looking for my next round of having to find roommates. I found Gigi. A few other people came by looking at the place as normal. Put it out on Craigslist. At this time, I didn't use the Facebook group. I think because that's how I found Nick. And I just forgot where it was. So, anyways, Gigi comes into the picture. Gigi is a cool, seemingly cool. She's very, very, very bubbly personality. She's freaking hella Generation Z. So there's that aspect. So the other roommate that I had at the time, she moved out now, but she was cool too. Or she was cool. And she was cool through thick and thin. We'll call her let's see, Raven. We'll call her Raven. I know, I'm just making up names at this point. Raven had actually moved in right after the couple moved out. Sometime after Shaq, or no, not after Shaq, because actually they were there. Shaq and Raven knew each other. They were there for quite a while actually. And now that I'm thinking back at it, I'm like, wow, That's a while ago. And then, so Raven moved in after the couple moved out across from the hall. This is a while ago. So Raven's actually been there for a while too, over a year. So she was living with me for about over a year and a half, pretty close. She was pretty cool. She had a cat. Cat was cool. Loved to take photos of the cat every now and then. Just chill with the cat. She found a boyfriend. Eventually moved out because she had allergies. Places is the wind blows from like the trade winds and everything, so she couldn't like deal with that. So she had to move out. And it didn't help because Gigi was not such a good roommate after all. So upon meeting Gigi, again, it's just this bubbly personality, and her and Raven get along pretty well, actually. At first. I say everything at first because eventually things started going downhill, and I should have caught the red flags. But how would you know unless you lived through this before? It's my first time going through it. First week, day one, everything gets rearranged. Everything. In the refrigerator, the cupboards, everything. Raven and myself are asking, like, what the hell? Like, Gigi rearranges everything. And it wasn't just the kitchen. It was the bathroom, so I'm like, where's my stuff at? You know, like, what the hell? Normally, I don't mind if, like, you're cleaning up, you're a new roommate, and you're cleaning up because it may be messy from the last time. The last roommate didn't exactly do a good job moving out. Totally understand that. Gigi was one of those roommates that just rearranged everything so her life could fit in there, which wasn't a problem, but it did throw us off, like, you know, where's my stuff at, kind of thing. Like, oh, there it is. So you have different roommates that have different standards or different way of doing things in their life so it can fit into whatever life that's already happening around them. I totally get that. And that's not in a way judging how they are as a person. It just, in my mind, it says one or two things. One, it's like, well, I don't care how you've arranged it, I'm going to arrange it differently. Or two, this is me fitting in, and this is the best way I can, like, fit in for my last situation, is to rearrange it so it fits more, like, for me. So you can look at it in different ways. It's not just, well, she's a bad person. I didn't think she's a bad person doing it. I just think that was inconsiderate. Let's say that again. Inconsiderate? Yes. Inconsiderate. But she apologized and was like, you know, I apologize. You know, I moved everything around. I kind of put stuff like this kind of thing. And to me, that was like a yellow flag. It wasn't so much a personality thing that I had that clashed. It was more like, oh, maybe that's how she is. That's how she copes. I don't know. So Raven and myself, we talked about it a couple of times. Like, yeah, it didn't really come apparent until later on when Gigi would at times play her music loud at night. And yeah, there was other things, but it was mostly, excuse me. So it wasn't just that she played her music loud, because Shaq did the same thing every now and then. He plays music loud, and upstairs would complain about it, and he would fix the problem. He would fix it. Not a problem, right? I mean, we would complain too, like, hey, you gotta knock on the door. Can you turn it down? People are trying to sleep. It's 12. And Shaq didn't really realize it, because around between 10 and 12 at night, it gets really quiet. Now we live by a highway, so predominantly there's like white noise throughout the whole day, and you really don't notice. It gets really quiet around 10 o'clock, 10 to 11 o'clock at night. It gets real quiet. So if your music is, say, you're listening at a music at a 30 out of 100, you might want to bring it down to 15, because that's about the level you need at those hours of the night. So Gigi would continuously play this music out loud sometimes, and got to a point where even I had to knock on the door like, hey, because I normally don't sleep till 2 o'clock, but when I'm getting a text message from one of my upstairs housemates talking about, hey, music's loud, etc., then I gotta be like, all right, well, now you're bothering the upstairs. Now they're texting me about it. Hello. I knocked on the door, said, hey, can you turn it down? She turned it down. But it kept happening over and over and over. And it wasn't just the loud music, it was loud. She had this, like I said, she had a bubbly personality. She was loud. She was like volatile, actually. At times, like volatile. Even Raven was like, she's across the hallway, across from me, and sometimes she would hear, like, freaking Gigi would be like, have this explosive outburst, like something was wrong with her. I'm like, what the hell is going on with this girl? Yeah, so we had both women at the time, so both females. Nothing wrong with females. I've had good experience, I've had bad experience, or not so good experience with females. The same with males. Anyways, Gigi was a different case. This is a case I had never had before as a roommate, so she was fairly... Okay, 30 minutes. Excuse me. It was new, and I didn't know how exactly to deal with it. So, among the other things, such as the rearranging, and then it came down to chores. See, when Shaq was here, everything went like clockwork. Raven, myself, and Shaq, we all did our chores. And sometimes we'd miss chores every now and then, but when Gigi came on board, it was more about, well, she would miss chores more often than not. And next thing you know, we have this conflict of who's doing what. And so the organization was thrown off. So everything came to a head. Cops almost had to be called by the housemates on the second floor because it just got out of control. And as Mr. Cool suggested, we had to do an intervention. More so, what I like to call it, a house meeting. So every now and then, I like to have these roommate meetings just to kind of go over, what's good, what's not so good, and how we can make it better. It's not really supposed to be a bitch session. It's supposed to be like, how can we make it more cohesive, or is everything good in your life? It's not supposed to be about complaining about everything, like, oh, you suck. Can you please put the toilet paper on the right way? That's a pet peeve of mine, but I'm actually joking. But I had a roommate that put the toilet paper on the opposite direction, so you have to kind of go under and grab it, and it's like, help me. Actually, Gigi wasn't actually responsible for that, but no, I'm half joking. But anyway, so these meetings are supposed to help us, not, look down on people. And we had to have one of these meetings. And I would have meetings with, say, the top floor. All housemates meet up, or obviously meet up with the person in charge of the top floor, and we talk about, how can we make things better? Do you have this working relationship? Who's supposed to take out the garbage? Who's supposed to bring the bins in after the fact, et cetera, or we talk about the neighbor in front here that not so much we don't like. We just don't think that he likes us. But we have this working relationship now. It's better, but every now and then he does find something to complain about. That's annoying. I think that's something else I have to talk about in the future. Dealing with neighbors. Yeah. But so we had to have a sit down with Gigi, Raven, and myself. I say, hey, I've been talking with Raven about this before. Like, yeah, we gotta sit down. We gotta talk about this. This is out of control. You know, the top floor is about to call the cops on Gigi. Not us so much, but this is gonna disrupt everybody's lives. It already is. Take a breath. Take a breath. Take a breath. How do we deal with this? We sit down one afternoon, and I believe it's like a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. Neither one of them are going to school, taking classes that day, so it's perfect. I had already made a list of the agenda, just different things we're talking about, and just went down the list. Different things we could fix, different things coming up, like updates, you know, travel. Like I think on my list I had to travel somewhere. I had to let them know that I was gonna be out of town. And I asked if anybody else is gonna be out of town. Gigi said she's gonna be out of town for a bit. She's gonna have family over. Huh? What? Red flag. She's gonna have family over while she is gone. Or she was gonna have family over. And this was the first time I had heard about it. And it wasn't like it was a month away. It was like within a week. So Mr. Cool was like, the first two interventions are more and warning, but the third intervention, you kick the roommate out. Oh, Mr. Cool. We're going to get to that in a bit here. We're going to get to that in a second. Gigi's like, oh, I'm going to have family over. I'm like, okay. Riven's like, okay. And when this happened, it just happened. Like, out of nowhere. And it wasn't like a family, like, it wasn't like, you know, she's going to have her family visiting or something like that. She literally had her family come over and live in the house for what seemed like forever. Like, living room, her room was full. And for some reason, I don't know, she had found an Airbnb or something, so she wasn't actually there for much of that. I was like, it blew our minds. Like, Raven and myself, it blew our minds. Like, what the fuck? And I'm like, well, oh my God. Now we're in a situation where it's like, I want to kick people out, but that just took us by surprise. Like, how do we react to this? Like, I didn't sign up for this. I mean, her family was cool with everything, but I'm thinking to myself, I have never had a roommate do this before. Like, oh, I'm gonna have my family over, and they literally come over and live for like I think it was a week. It was probably like a week or so, or up to a week. I'm like, I think her family was like there for vacation or something, and she had found an Airbnb or a friend to stay with in the meantime, so she wasn't actually in the house. It was her family. I'm like, what the hell? Bizarre. The most bizarre thing I've ever witnessed or had to be a part of. It wasn't like they were eating my food or anything like that, but holy cow, took me by a loop. So, second red flag. I think before that, she had her friends stay over in the room, but it was just only in her room. And they were all sleeping in the same bed, like, whatever, do what you want. But when it got loud and shit, that's when we had to be like, hey, keep it down. So, it got to a point where I had gone to Japan, and so I was gone for a good 3 weeks. I was gone for a bit, and then I kind of came back, and back into the thing. Gigi wasn't taking out the garbage or whatever. She wasn't doing her chart. So I just said, you know what? I told everybody, you know what? I'm not your father. You know, I'm not here to be like, hey, take out the garbage. You know, I left that chart up there so people could abide by it, not like so I can be like, hey, time to take out the garbage. Like, I'm not your babysitter. And I told both of them this, you know. But it came down to, I know Raven did her chores. I know that for a fact. Every now and then, like I said, we'd miss, you know, or we'd mistake somebody else's day. That's why we had names up on the board. And I just got to a point where I just stopped changing the names because it was just like, it seemed more of a chore for me to actually keep up with it because I'm busy too. I'm not just sitting at home like I'm staring at the board all day like, yeah, this is your chore. I got my own stuff I gotta do. I got my own things I gotta worry about. So I got frustrated and I got fed up too. It was like, I don't know who's supposed to do what, but we all supposed to work as a team kind of thing. And I knew, like, every now and then, Raven wasn't perfect either, but at least she would try, you know, to do her task as best as she possibly could. And I knew she did. And I tried, you know. So, but upon coming back from my trip to Japan, I had heard, one, Raven was moving out. And I told you the reason why. She's moving out because, I think, partly because of Gigi. Thankfully, Gigi was also planning to move out. So that was good news for all of us. So we were going to have another intervention or meeting about it, but we just decided, no, fuck it, whatever. She's going to move out anyway. She doesn't care. It didn't seem like she did care after everything that happened. And I kind of like, I wouldn't say it's my fault, but usually I'm a good judge of character when it comes to these sort of things. Like, this person seems nice, right? They'd be a nice fit. The only downside was, I mean, it wasn't necessarily her personality didn't really mesh with mine very much when I first met. Like, she's bubbly. I'm not a bubbly person, but that's not a judge of your character. It's just like, well, that's your personality, you know. It's very open, loud. It wasn't a red flag for me, but it was just like, yeah, she's different, so it doesn't mean I'm gonna be like, well, you can't stay here kind of thing. But, you know, her and Raven got along, and I thought it was a great thing. But sometimes it doesn't always work out. And that's kind of the lesson learned about roommates. So we never have to do a third intervention to talk about this or anything, but just some things you should probably consider when looking for roommates. It's like, you know, what their personality is, or even, well, when you're already in a situation, when you already signed the agreements and everything, what does it come down to? Because now it's like you gotta deal with the other stuff. You gotta deal with the agency, landlords, and all that stuff. So how do you deal with that? And I can honestly tell you that I don't know exactly, But it did get back to the agency that Gigi was a problem. And thankfully, she just moved out. Like, and that just might have been like, maybe that was like the law of attraction. Where we had two, Raven and myself was like, we were just getting fed up. And we would have had a third intervention, a third meeting, but she just moved out on her own. I didn't have to tell her anything. So it just happened. And we're burned off because of it. Well, Raven and myself, we're two good friends still. We still stay in contact. And even now to this day, we'll still be in like, we still meet up for photo shoots and such like that. So Gigi, she burned me. She had a bill to pay and she declined to pay it. So it was the last bill she had to pay on the internet, but she declined. Whether she had money or not, I have no idea. She probably didn't have a job. So I understand, but that's at least tell me, hey, I can't pay the bill. But so Mr. Cool, he said I had two roommates that wouldn't clean up the apartment and would continue to invite people over. Yeah, that's just inconsiderate. How best can you find an inconsiderate roommate? I don't know. You don't really know until you're in the situation. It's just like, what do I do? You can file a grievance with the agency, with the landlords. I believe that's one option you can do. As far as the legal way to do it, like if I was a landlord, I'd just kick your motherfucker out. But again, there's rules, there's laws. Even if you do kick roommate out, it still takes about 30 days. You gotta give them a 30-day warning. So like motherfuckers just don't end up on the street or whatever. So there's legal ways you gotta look at it, and there's also like more reasonable ways where you can just have a meeting, have an intervention. Hey, and a lot of people are reasonable. You sit down, talk with them, and Gigi even was reasonable for a little bit, but then for some reason she'd forget, and we had to tell her all over again. Hey, it's 2:00 in the morning. Because she would get home about 11 o'clock at night, and she'd be playing her music loud, talking all loud, which oddly enough, she didn't have a TV in her room, so she'd be loud as fuck. Whatever. You know, lessons learned. You learn the lessons along the way, or you don't. But, Mr. School, do you have any advice as to, like, what would you do in my situation? I'm not sure if you were here for the whole thing, but besides, like, the interventions, the meetings, or whatever, like, is there anything else you would do? Or maybe in your situation, what did you do? Like, when you had those roommates come over and mess up the apartment, didn't clean up after themselves, which also was a problem. Gigi didn't necessarily clean up after herself all the time. She would eventually get to it, but it took a little bit longer. Which is odd, because when we first met up for her to look at the place, she was like, you know, I'm in this situation, I'm trying to move out. And she's like, my current roommates are like, you know, they're messy and all this stuff. And I'm thinking back, like, was that really her that was a messy roommate? But then, like, I don't know. It's kind of hard to gauge that. So I think one red flag is if they're in a hurry. But that could be also, what if it was true? What if her roommates were bad? But then I heard stories that her old roommates from Raven, because they go to school, I think they were classmates or somebody in passing, they mentioned Gigi's name, and she was like, oh, what about Gigi? And they're like, oh, she's loud. Oh yeah, she was loud, all right. She was loud as fuck. So that was another red flag. But we're already like 3 or 4 months in. I mean, there's nothing I can do at this point except file a legal grievance with the rental agency and start processing. That's all you can really do. And just kind of go with it. I mean, if the person's unreasonable, just not doing anything at all to better the situation, then that's the only route you have left. And I would only do that as a last resort. Because, to be honest, again, like, I got busy. I got to a point, it wasn't that I didn't care. I cared to the point where it was driving me mad. As well as Raven. Raven wanted to move out, and I'm pretty sure she left her cat in her room because Gigi would leave the door open so the cat would get out, knowing the cat gets out all the time. So look for those things in consideration. Other red flags. Maybe ask people, and a good important question we'd ask, how their relationship was with their last roommates and or landlord. I mean, think about what the landlord or the rental agency asked you when you apply. How were things with your last your last landlord? They'll ask these questions for a reason. They don't ask them just like, oh, we're asking just getting your business. Like, no. They're asking because they want to know how you were with your last landlord. Now, depending on your last landlord, that could be a fucking asshole, because a lot are. But there are some good ones out there too as well. It's like my last landlord was cool as fuck, but current rental agency isn't exactly the best, but they are someone we have to deal with, so we try to keep the relationship as good as possible, as good as it can be. So, Mr. Cool, we kicked one of them out. Once we did that, the other one started to help out more. Great. That's good. It's kind of like, we'll set the example. We'll kick the motherfucker out, and you're next, by the way, if you don't adhere to the rules of the land here. I mean, fortunately, it was only Raven, myself, and Gigi, so we didn't have to worry about a fourth person necessarily. But I did tell you that Gigi went out of town. She had this friend over for actually part of the time I was in Japan. Actually, I think it was. Yeah, it was before I went to Japan for about a week or so. She had her friend over because she had went to Thailand or something. She went somewhere. So her friend was like over, living in our place, because she got kicked out of her house. It was just a powder keg of like, what the hell is going on? And the most annoying thing, I didn't care about the friend. Like, I know bad situations happen, bad situations come up, but her friend didn't do anything to like help with the place at all. Because I asked her, like, hey, can you take out the trash? Because Gigi is supposed to do that, but she's not here. So since you're staying here, kind of thing, can you do that? And she didn't. Like, what the hell? So I took it out the last day before I went to Japan. And yeah, talk about experience, my friends. Experience with roommates. So tell me what your experiences were, good or bad, with roommates, and what would you do in a situation like that? Oh, yeah, it's getting dark. It is getting dark, my friends. Yep, it is about sunset. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. I hate being under the weather. It annoys the hell out of me. But eventually I'll get out of it. I'll feel better in no time at all. Keep sucking out that water. But yeah, that's pretty much my story as far as bad roommate. We came pretty close. But Gigi decided to move out about 3 weeks before the contract ended, so we didn't have to kick her out. We just had to bide our time and wait for it. So it actually worked out for us. So for the rest of the time there, Raven, she could let her cat out throughout the house and roam the house like she did before without having to worry about Gigi coming in and leaving the door open. You know, the other annoying thing about Gigi was she left a lot of her stuff there for a good while. So she moved out. Essentially, she moved out, and she was like, she said something like, "Oh, my friends are gonna pick up the rest of the stuff." I'm like, okay. You know, the day comes, her friend never shows up to pick up her stuff. So I don't know if she was lying, or her friend's just like, yeah, well, screw that. Which makes sense. I don't know, like, doesn't seem like she's really good with her friends, or whatever you want to call them. There was one friend she had, she was cool. She was cool. She'd come over, sleep on the couch. But for some reason, past few months, I stopped seeing her altogether. I don't know if they switched classes or what. I know they used to work at the similar place or whatever, but maybe she stopped being friends or something. She was kind of like her, what they call, like a conscience. She was like her conscience in a way. Like she was the same person out of the whole thing. So I don't know what happened between them, but I stopped seeing her. I thought she was a cool one. Actually, I'd rather have her as a roommate. But who knows? Excuse me. Told you it's live. Everything happens, right? So I'm gonna get off here. Yeah, it's been an hour. Holy cow. Yep, it's been an hour. So we're at that time of attention span. Excuse me. I want to thank you for coming on here. But yeah, if you ever been in a situation like that, please put it in the comment section. And thanks, Mr. Cool, for engaging here. He's told us a little bit about your experience for roommates and how it can be good, bad, or ugly in some situations, and it could just be, it's crazy, man. Like, but in the end, it all worked out. I think that's the best part about the whole thing. It's like, you know, it could have been a lot worse. The cops could have been called, and throughout it all, you know, Raven stuck through. You know, the upstairs neighbors we had, you know, because of GGR, we had a little bit of a falling out, but they knew it was just her. It wasn't all of us. It was just her. And so we've kind of rekindled that relationship again, where we have that understanding between the top floor and the bottom floor. But it's something like, if you have somebody that just disrupts everything like that, so that's one red flag you should watch out for. And not just everything, like, I mean, your lives. If things that you're wondering, you're thinking in the back of your mind, you know, is she a good person? I don't know. I don't think she's an evil person. There's nothing in my mind says, you know, Gigi was an evil person, but she's disrespectful, inconsiderate, and these are qualities. And I thought about it at first. I'm like, well, she's young and dumb, yes, and I don't want to say anything else about that, but just qualities you have to look out for. I'm not saying all young people are like that, but I've been through a lot of, I've had, Shaq was young. Yeah, he was inconsiderate sometimes, but he fixed that. You know, we had a few talks, and he fixed this. He fixed this thing, you know, he would turn his music down, and he just didn't know any better. I mean, if I didn't know any better, I wouldn't know any better either. You know, I'd be like, I'm gonna play my music loud. His music wasn't necessarily loud, it was just bassy. So it would disrupt the upstairs. Like, oh, his music's, I can hear the bass through the fucking floor, kind of thing. This is the goal. We need to talk about the Shield Initiative. Man, this is nasty, man. I hate it. We'll talk about the Shield Initiative offline. But yeah, we got through it though. I mean, Raven eventually moved out as well. And she moved out for different reasons. But so currently, just to tell you my current situation with roommates, is I had to do another round of roommates and dealing with the agency, which is such a pain in the ass now, I think, because of Gigi. Thank you, Gigi, for helping me out with that. Nope, she didn't help out at all. So yeah, I'm moving out, but I won't help to find a new roommate. Yes, sir, Mr. Director. LOL, just kidding. Yeah, so I had to do all that by myself. And again, I'm busy. I got a job. I do photography. I got other things I gotta do. I gotta do all this stuff. And then the agency is like, they gotta be approved and all that stuff, which I understand. I totally get it. So I might make another video about, dealing with landlords and the rental agencies, et cetera, But just in my time after Gigi, it's been a little bit more difficult finding somebody to replace my last two roommates. And finally, we have a stable, I won't get into the legalities of it, but you have a stable understanding right now. So my roommates are pretty cool for the most part. They're both guys. One of them is ex-military. The other one works northeast side. He's a local. The other guy is from Pennsylvania or something like that. Very militaristic minded. And before him, I had another roommate before him that didn't get approved, unfortunately, and had to move out just this last month. And the dynamic alone between the two roommates is so different. It just throws me off. But it's kind of in a good way. The new guy is kind of a neat freak, and he even admits it. So we cleaned up everything in the kitchen, just like bam. It wasn't like a reorganization of everything like Gigi. He just literally cleaned everything up. Just being like so behind everything right now, I haven't had really much time. Plus, the last roommate hasn't exactly gotten all of his stuff out, so I'm still waiting for him to pick up the rest of his stuff. So I haven't really done anything as far as cleaning wise, but the other guy helped clean that up. The other guy that lives next to me, that works on the northeast side, he's pretty cool, he's pretty chill. I barely see him in the daytime. I think he works all day and he gets off at night. He has a girlfriend every now and then. And so far, it's been pretty cool. There hasn't been any noise complaints or anything like that. I don't think, well, the other one, the guy, the ex-military, he drinks every now and then, but that's about it. It's been cohesive for the most part. Although there are little things. Nobody's perfect, right? I got one roommate using my toilet paper up. I'll catch you in the next episode of Roommates. What do you do when a motherfucker uses your toilet paper and doesn't replenish it? Well, we're going to have a meeting about that. Oh, yeah, we are going to have... I look high, don't I? Trust me, I'm not high. I'm high on life, but nothing else at the moment. Oh, yeah. We're going to have a meeting about that. Nah, there's a few things. Seriously, though, it's not the air dirty laundry out on the interwebs. It's just, this is real life. And one way or another, whether people are intentionally trying to get under your skin or not, you're going to have to butt heads with your roommates eventually. it's not a perfect world, right? We're all different people. And he may not see it that way as I'm using the toilet paper up, and maybe just not thinking about it. You just gotta remind him, like, hey, buddy, you using the toilet paper up that I bought, I paid for, please replenish it. That's all. I had one roommate ask me, hey, can I eat your banana? Yeah, if you replenish it. And I was fine with that. You know? I was cool with that. Mr. Cool's like, try time travel to prevent getting a bad roommate. Let me tell you what. If I didn't have a bad roommate, I wouldn't be making this video right now. Maybe I would. Maybe I wouldn't. Maybe it'd be at a different time. But I don't know. I'm not saying you should have a bad roommate, but I'm saying you can't have the good without the bad. You can't have the bad without the good. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying you should put yourself in a bad situation to learn a lesson, because that would be shitty too. I actually should have made this video a long time ago. But now that's after the fact, I'm kind of like I said, I have a stable couple of roommates right now. And the biggest problem that I have right now is the motherfucker using up my toilet paper. Well, at least not as bad as one of my friends' friends that used to come over, used to use up all the toilet paper. Like, literally, I would have a whole roll. The whole roll would be almost gone from one visit. Like, what are you doing, dude? Are you serious? It's not that bad. But, so, because I have a secret stash of toilet paper, I still have toilet paper left. And until that roll in the bathroom that's empty right now somehow becomes filled, I'm not going to put my toilet paper back on there. That's all I'm saying. That's one way I can deal with the situation before coming to a meeting. Well, because we'll have a meeting. I haven't had a meeting with these guys because they're still fairly new. Yeah, that's about it. So the other guy, like I said, he's a neat freak. That's probably the worst thing about him. Not a personality flaw. Yes, food, don't touch it unless you ask first. That's a cardinal sin. Don't touch a man's food. Don't touch a man's drink. I already talked about this before. But I must bring it up again. I gotta remind everybody that, hey, don't do it. So we're gonna have that meeting. I already have like a list of things I'm gonna go over anyways. If we don't have a meeting, I'll just put it up in a Google document, let them both see it, and just acknowledge it at the very least. It's not serious where we have to sit down, but I would like to. I would like to sit down mostly so we can get to know each other a little bit more, like all at the same time. I see one at one time and one at the other time. I don't ever see them both at the same time because of the schedule. Conflict of schedule, it happens all the time. I know one guy, he is asleep or in his room. Like, it's already 6:55. Yeah, he's not coming out until 6 in the morning tomorrow. So the other guy usually gets here about 10 o'clock at night. So their schedules always are like opposite ends. They're never gonna meet ever. No, actually on the weekends, because they're both off. So we'll see. I'll keep you updated on that. If you got, tell me how do you normally deal with bad roommates, or how do you look for roommates or that are cohesive for your situation? Put it in the comment section below and tell me if I might have missed something on my side, what I could have done better, or if you even have a question for me, or what would you like to see in the next episode of Roommates. You put all that in the comment section, and I will get back to you and hopefully make a new video about it. As far as the next video in general, I'm not sure we're gonna put out yet, but there's a big podcast series I have right now that I've been working on, kind of off and on about Instagram and the good, the bad, the ugly of Instagram and other social platforms. But yeah, stay tuned for that. I already have one up about Instagram right now, and I'm going to talk about like Flickr or some other thing, other social media platforms that are good for photography in general. Not so much just posting photos and so people can like it, but that sort of thing. Let me get off here. As you can see, I'm in my car. It's been very steamy past few weeks. Steamy for a while is about 85 degrees, which really feels like 93 with the humidity, maybe even more than that. The heat the air is so heavy. It feels like I'm being compressed by it. That's how bad it is. Desert heat is a little different. Well, in no way discounting the heat is heat. It's hot, okay? Stay cool, hydrate. See, I'm drinking this water here. I'm drinking it for this, and because I'm trying to get over this. Just feel better. Anyway, I think that's about it. So I've gone over my past situation, most recent situation with roommates, both good and bad, but mostly trying to deal with the bad and how best to circumnavigate that, because that's not always, it's not something like I sign up for. It's not like, oh, I want a bad roommate so I can deal with this shit, you know? Not at all. Not at all. It's not something that I want to do. But since I had to do it, I get to, discuss with you guys, or discuss just my experience and how best you can go through it. So let me know in the comment section. I think that's about it for my side, though. Mr. Cool, if you want to chat offline or whatever, you can. You know how to find me, Hangouts, etc., and all that. And yeah. I also want to thank you for coming on and applying your input there, because I actually helped out a lot with this discussion. And perhaps, hopefully, you can see you on the next cast of my roommate series. Perhaps you have any, Mr. Chill. Yeah. Mr. Chill is your brother, right? It's your cousin or something, I don't know. But Mr. Chill, no, it's Mr. Cool, man. My bad. Chill, man. Stay cool. Be cool, man. Be cool. Nah, but yeah, if you got any ideas for the next episode, I'm more than open with that. But anyway, I'm gonna go offline here. I've talked enough. You never know. About almost an hour and a half in here. Anyways, I will see you on the next cast. Thanks for coming into this session 5 of Roommates. A Roommates episode saga coming at you. I'm trying to figure out what the next one will be about. I actually had a original episode 5 written up. I don't know where the hell it went. So for the longest time, I haven't done this. So I decided today I'm just gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna do a episode 5, whatever, and probably something totally different, but it's all good. I actually think it was more about searching for a roommate, not so much searching for a good roommate, but more searching for a roommate in general. I was gonna be like, here's the places you can do it, here's the sites you can do it. So we'll talk about that on a different cast, okay? Anyways, thanks for coming. It's been real. This is your host, Michelle, and Opti-Mystic M. Episode session 5. Roommates. I will see you next on the flip. Anyways, put your experience, bad, good, ugly, whatever, excuse me, in the comment section. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Cheers, mates. Later.